Well, hello everybody, the History Guy here. Well, I really had not intended on diving right into another Hearts of Iron game while I'm simultaneously wrapping up my current series that I'm doing in Millennium Dawn, which is a modern day mod. But there was such an overwhelming number of people who were interested in this mod that I thought I'd go ahead and dive in. I probably won't play it often. Maybe just once a week until I wrap up some of my other series. But I had a little time on my hands and I thought I'd give this one a go. So we're diving into the end of A New Beginning, which is a mod that spans 200 years from 1857 all the way to 2050. And I did a preview already and kind of a overview kind of thing of this mod. So I'll put a link to that below in the description. So I'm not going to show a lot of what happens early on in this mod because I'm going to basically play through as I did before. But once I get to the American Civil War, I'm going to go ahead and take on the role of the Confederate States of America, and then we'll kind of dive into the gameplay. So I'll not really show you much of anything leading up to 1861 because I already did that in my review of this mod. So we're going to just do this. We're going to dive in, and I'll pick things up as the Confederate States in 1861. All right, so here's where it begins. It is January 22nd, 1861. South Carolina has seceded, and that is the beginning of my taking over the Confederacy. So I'm going to immediately start proclaiming the new nation, which will improve my base war support, my base stability. We've got free civilian factories. I spent a lot of time building civilian factories in the South. Now, obviously, I don't have them all yet because it's going to take some time, but I'm immediately going to start working on some military factories because I'm going to need those. And let's take a look at the situation here. I spent a lot of time working on industry so that then I could turn around and start working on my military once I had my own focus tree. So we'll both have the same industry, but hopefully he focuses on other things now instead of just the military the whole time. And we've got to start training some basic units. We're going to go with just basic infantry regiments for now until I'm in a position to do more. It doesn't look like I can even do that at the moment. So very little manpower. All of that, of course, is going to change. We just got to wait until the rest of the units secede. And I eventually kind of fill out the Confederacy here in just a couple of months. So I get my first volunteers here in the middle, or the late part of February. I'm definitely going to want to have at least 2 armies. So we'll start building those up. In the East, we're going to go ahead and go historically with who was kind of the main guy over there, and that was Joseph Johnston. And we'll go ahead and, I guess for now, put the front line right here. Obviously, it's going to move up once we get Virginia and some of the other southern states on board. And in the West, we're going to go with the other Johnston, Albert Sidney Johnston, who was kind of the top dog there. And I guess for now, we'll just kind of put him along that line right there. Now, things are starting to get a little better. We've got a few military factories, only 3. But I've got 11 civilian factories. I'll get a lot more once these other states jump in on my side here shortly. All right, we've proclaimed our new nation. We're going to move on to retake Fort Sumpter. Once we get down through these 3, then we start to get making decisions about what we want to do. I would imagine his decision tree is going to involve going to war with me, and I got to be careful because it looks like the only army he's really got right now is actually lined up over here in New Mexico, ready to jump in and take Texas. So it may be that I need to move my front line over to deal with that threat. Okay, more states join the Confederacy. The Union stands firm. Recently, the Union seems to have sent their reply in the form of a supply ship to the fort. That's what happened historically. Unacceptable to the commanding officer surrounding the fort, he ordered a siege on the fortress. No lives on either side were lost, but the war has only begun. So we are now at war. And with that, the rest of the Confederate States jump in. I probably should have sent these Western forces a little bit sooner. but now it begins. So let's go ahead and get the front line for the east. They're going to have to be all the way along this line here for now. But we've got a lot of decisions to make, one of which, of course, is the continuing building of military factories to kind of round out my force. Not very good infrastructure happening right now, so that's going to hurt me a little bit. I do have now some political power that I can use. So I've got to be really thoughtful about how I spend my political power. So I'm going to look through this a little bit and then let you know what my decision was. So I think for now what I'm going to do is I'm going to change my industrialization from agrarian society to industrializing. So what that does is it reduces the hit to my production efficiency cap, reduces the hit to my construction speed, reduces the hit to my daily political power gain, improves my division recovery rate, and reduces the amount of consumer. Well, actually hurts my consumer goods factories a little bit, but that's okay. So we'll go ahead and, oh, it's not going to let me do that because it's always false. Okay, well, we'll sit tight for now and kind of see what happens here. All right, so we've got some new volunteers. We're going to go ahead and get them added to the army here in just a minute. It appears he doesn't have a tremendous amount. Okay, he got the same thing I did, so we both got... No, he didn't either. I've got 34 divisions to his between 9 and 17. So I need to jump on this quick. I've got 166,000 in fielded manpower to his 40 to 50,000. I'm not sure why that is, but I am not going to complain, that's for sure. We're going to send a few more west just to kind of fill that out a little bit, but the main force, we're going to push as soon as they get on the line here. I'm going to go ahead and start jumping off and taking territory while I've got this advantage now. I'm guessing he's going to very quickly get volunteers, and that's going to change. But we're going to dive right into this thing and see what happens here. How many more are there? A lot of divisions that I got right now. Just kind of surprised by that, I guess. Let's go ahead and add them all this way. We've actually got more than I really know what to do with. So we're going to send a couple of them west to help with that. We'll send these National Guard units west. And then we'll keep this filled out with 24. And I'm not even going to wait until they get on the line. I'm just going to tell them to go because I already issued orders to take Kentucky, West Virginia, and Washington. And there you can see he's starting to get a force now. So I got to be a little careful on that. And these forces over here in Texas, I'm just basically going to hold the line. Let me go ahead and extend this border, actually. I'm going to extend the front line all the way around the border of Texas, which kind of stinks because it's a long one. The border of Texas and then even up into Arkansas a little bit there. All right, here comes our first fighting. We're moving into southern West Virginia. So far, so good. I have more unassigned divisions. Okay. I want to keep one eye on how many divisions he has. Okay, he did now get additional divisions, so we're now probably back to about even. In fact, yeah, the field of manpower is almost identical at this point, so really it's just going to come down to trying to get an early jump on him and take some of his factories away so I can kind of equalize the balance of power a little bit. In fact, if I can move up into Ohio, and it doesn't look like he's got much on the line here. All right, here we go. He's going to move in on Arkansas since I don't have much out that way. So I may have to shift a couple of units to compensate for that. It's going to take me a while to get any units recruited and into the field, but they are coming. And now I'm going to extend this front line even further so I can cover. I don't quite have enough to hold the line like I'd like to. But he doesn't have much here in the east right now, so we'll see what happens with this. Meanwhile, I'm going to add Bob Jones here, who's going to be giving me a 5% bonus to division attack. Every little bit's going to help right now. And I'm going to look at political advisors and see if there's anything that's worthwhile. Military construction speed on factories, that might be helpful. Infrastructure, civilian factory construction speed, stability, political power gain, and ideology drift defense. Okay, I think we'll go with that one for now. So my stability is at 75%. Slavery, of course, is hurting that, or it would be at 90 right now. But as long as I can stay fairly stable and I can win some early victories here and push the line, I think I'll be in pretty good shape. I've only got 3 research threads that I can keep going at any given time. I don't think support companies or anything militarily is going to help me a whole lot. Land doctrine, yes. Let's take a look at where I can get some bonuses for my infantry. Not really any good spots for that. I guess we're going to focus on tradition for now, and that's going to take the better part of a year. Let's get these guys pushed up in where there's no Union army anywhere close. And I'm just going to keep pushing for this. I got to try to hold the line here in Arkansas best I can, and in Texas as well. And it doesn't look like it's going real well there yet, so I may have to shift some more units over to help deal with that threat. Alright, so we had this event here with War Comes Bloodshed, and there's no better example of this here. As our armies clash with the enemies, we bring destruction in our wake. The only depending factor is how many armies were fielded, and that can be a measurement of how destructive they can be. So a bunch of damage happening in Kentucky. Yeah, that kind of happened. The Union occupied Kentucky. It had been, or actually I think it was the Confederates who may have moved their armies in first in the southern part of Kentucky. We're right on the doorstep here of Cincinnati. I started trying to attack Washington, and that was going well for a while, but now we're having some attrition, and there's not a lot of armies there, but he's really pushed me quite a bit over here in Texas, and he's got a couple of my units isolated, so that's a problem. I'm not really sure what's going to happen out there right now. So a national focus got bypassed, retake Fort Sumpter and Dixie to arms. So now we have decisions to make. Address the industry. We can move the capital to Virginia, which I'm not entirely sure what that does, except it gets me down the road toward help, which may be something I desperately need to get something from those folks. But first, I think I probably need to address the industry. So that's the direction we're going to go first. I did just rush some new units into the field. That'll be tremendously helpful, especially in the west. I'm kind of holding my own in the east right now, but the west is a real problem. So let's go ahead and redraw the lines here, I guess. I'm going to lose a couple of units being isolated and overrun down there. All right, get them over there. Get on the line. Try to hold the line while we try to make something. Looks like right now my best bet is here. If I can get across the Ohio River, I can probably cause some real damage and start driving up into his industry, into the heartland, hit Cleveland, Columbus, Pittsburgh, maybe even make my way up to Detroit and Chicago if I get really lucky. Let's look at the situation. Numbers are pretty even. I've lost 14,000. He's lost 11,000. He's got me slightly in terms of factories. It looks like he took some of my factories. Division-wise, I've got a few more divisions in the field than he does, but that's not going to help me long term. I'm going to need a bigger advantage than that. Okay, so we're into August of 1861. Things not going real well over here in the east. The Union's pushing down on me in the Shenandoah Valley a little bit, but I am making inroads into Ohio and Indiana. I'm making a push to try and get up here and just cut him in half. On my own kind of reverse anaconda plan. Split the Union in two right up the middle here at the Great Lakes. Isolate and destroy some of his army. Hold the line in the west the best I can and see what happens. So we're going to start addressing the industry. So we're going to open a couple of new military factories. That's my big problem right now is I've been rushing units into the field. I've got 49 divisions. I've got more men than him, but they're not very well equipped, and you can see that in the losses. I've suffered 38,000 to his 16,000, and manpower is getting scarce. So that's only going to take me so far. So pretty soon I'm going to have to figure something out. But my main goal here is to try and take out his industry. So we'll see how that works out. We're into November of 1861 now. Here's the situation. I took back a little bit of territory up here in the Texas Panhandle, but he's still giving me grief here. So we're going to see if we can push this last unit out. He's only got a few troops on the border there, but he's got a lot here in Arkansas. That's causing me a real problem. I've got this bulge right here into Tennessee and the northern part of Mississippi I've got to deal with. But we are still up into a little bit of Indiana and southern Ohio. We've got Cincinnati. I got a unit that got isolated up here in the southeastern part of the state. But he has very little defending Washington. In fact, I just pushed him out of this part of Northern Virginia. So we're going to continue pushing and see if I can't maybe take Washington, because he doesn't have much defending it, which seems really ridiculously stupid to me. But I'm not complaining. So let's watch and see for just a minute if we can take Washington off his hands. He's just got the 1 division. That's going to be a big, big help for me. National focus, I am currently working on moving my capital to Virginia so I can open up those, hey, the fall of Washington, so I can open up those diplomatic opportunities with Britain and France. Confederate forces have been reported to have marched on Washington, D.C., and against all odds, took over the heavily fortified city. The threat of Confederate invasion made the city become a fortress. Of course, it wasn't quite a fortress at this point in the war. That came kind of later, but so things are going well in the east, not as well in the west. Numbers-wise, I've lost 77,000 men now. That's why my manpower is almost at 0 at this point. He's only lost 45,000, and he's obviously got a lot more manpower than I do. But we're pretty close in terms of factories, and I've got him in number of divisions. I've got him probably at least by about 60 or 70% in terms of numbers. So that's the good news. So we've got to keep pushing, especially right here where he's got just the 1 division. So let's see if we can't march on Baltimore and maybe even push it all the way up into Philadelphia, because he just doesn't appear to have anybody here. All right, I'm going to push through and close this gap right here in the central part of my force. And it seems like it went pretty well. He just had the 1 division there. So we'll close that gap, and now that kind of shortens the line that I have to defend. That helps a lot. We're running into some difficulty now up here in Pennsylvania. It looks like he's fighting me a little harder than I wanted him to. So it's January of 1862. We have successfully moved the capital to Richmond. We no longer get the effects from address the industry. Let's go ahead and take a look. Seek international support. It's going to get us some political power. I'm probably going to have to end slavery at some point if I have the ability to do that, and I think I probably do. We're going to have to come down here and deal with conscription laws soon because I'm just about out of manpower. But let's go with seek international support. I feel like it's going okay. You can see I've kind of stabilized the line. The places where I was having trouble, I'm not really having trouble anymore. I'm just going to have a manpower issue, so I'm going to look real quick and see what the options are as far as spending political power to get a change in conscription. We've got also economy laws that can be changed, but I'm not sure that really matters if I don't have manpower. I'm already at limited conscription, so I can go to extensive, and that'll improve things a little bit. What's that going to cost me? 127. So I've got a little while till I get there because I'm only gaining half a point a day. The offensive is on in Texas and into Oklahoma. We're pushing along the lines, starting to make some progress, pushing back in places where for a long time it was pretty stagnant. Things are really slow going over here in the east, but I do still hold Washington. My manpower is down to just 15,000 now. Losses are 110,000, but I've got 60 divisions in the field. I've gained a few new factories, but factories are pointless when you don't have men. So let's get this number up so we can change that conscription law. Hopefully that'll help. Hopefully getting international support will help. And we'll get to that place where we can win this thing. Okay, there's seek international support. We're going to go mission to Britain. I don't know if that's going to be enough to get them in on this thing. World tension's only at 3%. I don't know what the rules are in this mod for gaining support, but we're going to take a look. They're working on send equipment and support. Is that for me? That would be amazing if it is. I don't know if it is. I don't know his tree very well. And it doesn't look like he's working on American Civil War diplomacy, so I'm going to guess that's a no. He's actually helping somebody else right now. Oh, well. I guess we'll just wait and see. April 1862, the second year of the war. I passed the extensive conscription law. I have started adding a little bit of manpower, so that's helpful. Meanwhile, continuing to push up, trying to split the Union in two. Just want to hold the line everywhere else as best I can. I've lost 139,000. He's lost 89,000. The good news is that I seem to have stabilized my manpower a little bit. I don't seem to be using it all up, so I'm adding manpower right around as quickly as I'm losing it. So at least that'll stabilize, and hopefully we can get enough of a push up here to finally hit Lake Erie and split his army in two. Then we'll see what happens with this mission to Britain, if that triggers anything at all. All right, here's the mission to Britain. It's the end of May 1862. I've taken Indianapolis. I've taken Columbus. I've pushed up into southern Illinois. I'm now marching on Union territory almost everywhere. But still no sign that we're going to get any support from anyone. Maybe inviting observers. That's going to give them an event, but I've got to get France, mission to France first. Then I actually get events for the overseas powers. Looks like I've got a while before I can plead for intervention, so maybe I should have been doing that all along. I don't know. Some manpower there. Downplaying slavery is going to help, but maybe I should have just been focusing on that the whole time. I may not need the help, though. You can see right now it's 24% in my favor. If I can get up there and take Philadelphia, New York, Boston, Chicago, Detroit, that's probably going to be enough. So if I can go ahead and get him separated here, we'll be well on our way. Manpower staying pretty steady, so I think we might be okay there. Into July of 1862, and he left the path wide open for me to march up and hit Chicago, so I took it. Let's see where that leaves us. We're at 34% now. Still got to take a couple major cities. Got to get Detroit. Definitely going to have to get over there and get Philadelphia and New York, and we'll see where we're at once that happens. I may have to start shifting units from the west over to the east because it feels like I need more on that side. All right, we're into March of 1863. Let's talk about what happened. He actually pushed back pretty far, had me isolated, had me in a bad way. Had to reorganize my forces a little bit. I've retaken Chicago and Detroit. I've solidified my line now, and I've stabilized it as far south as South Carolina, and now I've got to start the pushback. Meanwhile, I'm pleading for intervention, and we're making our way down here. I don't know what decimate Dixie means. But I'm guessing that means that the war ends, so that's not what we want. So hopefully we get to Golden Dixie instead, so we're going to have to start working down the other side here. But I take it there's very little more I can do to try and get Britain and France on my side. It doesn't appear that that's going to happen anytime soon. Numbers-wise, I've lost 307,000. He's lost 244. Things continue. I've got double his force. It's just a matter now of getting him pushed out of some of these areas, making the final thrust, taking Washington back, New York, Philadelphia. That should pretty well do it. Into May 1863, I believe we are in the end game. I'm closing the door on his counterattack that had me nervous for a little while there. I've got him completely sealed off on the west side. There's nothing that's going to happen over here that's going to help him at all. So really it's just now a matter of waging the war in the east, taking these major cities, Boston, New York, Philadelphia, Washington, and I believe that should be enough to win this thing. The losses are now almost even. The war's going well in my favor. I've got 47 factories. He's got far less than that. I've got 80 divisions to his far less than that. And at this point, war support's at 91%. Stability's at 80%. Things are going really, really well. We just got to finish them off now. So it's taken a little longer than I thought it would, but we're just about into September of 1863. Washington's about to be retaken. He snuck a little force around over here and temporarily grabbed Cleveland, but I got it back quickly. I've got this bulge that I've got to sort out here, and as soon as I take Baltimore, I think that'll be resolved. We can kind of shorten this line and then march it forward and finish this thing off. Winter may get in my way a little bit, but it's happening fast now. We've got Baltimore, we've got Washington, we've got every major city west of here. It's just a matter now of taking the last couple of big ones. We're at 68%. toward his capitulation. What is the losses now are almost even, and I've got about a 2-to-1 advantage in terms of my manpower. So, or as far as the fielded manpower. Let's close this gap finally and build a regular line here, and that should get me to Philadelphia probably sometime in October. All right, Chicago surrender. What does this mean? Okay, so it looks like it's done. I took Philadelphia, and that was enough. In the Chicago courthouse, Illinois, Robert E. Lee encountered and defeated Ulysses S. Grant's army. After the skirmish, Union General-in-Chief Ulysses S. Grant surrendered to General-in-Chief Lee. With the surrender of Chief General of the Union Army as well as Confederate push into the North, the Union is struggling. The dreams of a reunited states has long been questioned. To this final act of surrender left the Union to be steamrolled under the Confederacy. The American Civil War has ended, and the United States has been divided. So let's take a look at what that looks like for me. I guess... Does it continue? I mean, do I just get to keep the territory that I had at the moment of surrender? Is that how that works? That appears to be how that works. So let's take a look. Okay, there's the white piece. Now it redrew the battle lines. So I got to keep all of the slave states is basically how it worked out. I got Missouri, I got Kentucky, I got West Virginia, and that's where it's going to be. So we're going to stop right there. It's October of 1863. That was a whole lot for our first episode. I'm guessing now I should be able to get a new set of national focuses. I'm hoping that's the case. I don't know that that's going to be the case, but we'll let this run out just maybe to the next month to wait and see if that's what happens. Maybe it just has to be at a certain date, a point in time. That's what we're going to have to find out, is whether or not the Confederacy gets new national focuses or if we're just kind of stuck with that. Because it may be that I have nothing. And I know that this is a work in progress, that this mod is still being developed, and so that may yet come. I know that's kind of down the road. But we're going to stop right there. I'd love to know your thoughts, your observations, your questions. Like I said, this is not going to be an everyday or a very often kind of series. I've got too many other things going right now, but I did want to take advantage while everybody was kind of interested in this one to follow up on that first video. So we'll take it from there. And once one of my other series is done, we'll start picking this up every 3 days or so. Until then, hit that thumbs up. Please subscribe if you haven't already. Check out some of my other videos. Check out Patreon and what's available there. And we will see you again real soon. Thanks for watching.